to my Secret Ned Rig bait. Welcome back, man. Hey, cold water, all kind of things, rivers, smallmouth, it all comes down to the Ned Rig. To me, when it comes to when I'm fishing smallmouth, whether it's on the river or lake, even when I'm fishing largemouth, when I'm trying to really slow down, the Ned Rig is where it's at. Man, I have become a complete fan, kind of just completely mastered it. And I have one, man, I've got a bait. Now, you may know it, a lot of people may know it, but I didn't know it. And a friend of mine who smallmouth fishes a lot gave me a little tip on it, and I'm going to share that with y'all. Bill is my all-time best Ned Rig bait to be used. And so anyways, it's a quick rundown for those that don't know. You know, a Ned Rig is usually going to have something like a flat weighted head, something like this, where you have a weighted head and your little hook there, and it's supposed to kind of come down and sit up on the bottom. And Ned Rig's supposed to mimic different things like you know, feeding bait fish, crawfish, you know, insects, different things that will be sitting up. And they've done a lot of research. I remember watching a video and they said how they actually developed the Ned Rig, and they took plastics and they were trying to figure out, you know, what is a bait that the bass really love, and they started taking a crawfish bait and they started removing appendages and then seeing, you know, how many bites they got and how many times that the, you know, the fish just struck on it, until they got to the point where they just had a vertical, let's grab one, where they just pretty much added something like that, you know, where they just had like a little turd or whatever you want to call it, a little vertical shaft piece, and almost like a short Cinco, and they found like they got the most strikes and everything on just that bait, just that plain little cylinder, you know, without all the appendages on it. So once they removed it all, they ended up getting the most, and that's pretty much how they found out like the Ned Rig was one of the most effective baits that you can get. Now, you have two different types. Let's get into it. You have two different types of, really, when you break it down to your Ned Rigs. You have, you know, your typical plastic, you know, your regular plastic material Ned Rigs, and then you have the ones like you have from Z-Man and others, where you have the Elastec. The Elastec, the biggest difference is it is really, really stretchy and durable compared to your other plastics. You see, that's not really going anywhere. Really, really stretchy, and it floats. That's the key. Your Elastecs float. They actually sit up and they'll stand up like that and float when you actually have them rigged up on the lure, which, you know, I've got a couple other ones rigged up, you know, from a different. And your Z-Man is the one that actually really is the one that really known for that. The Elastec ones with the Ned Rigs, because you have your different ones. Your Finesse, let's put that back. Your Finesse TRD, which is just a little 2.5 inch, you know, little mini looking Cinco thing. You've got the ones, I forgot what these are called, like a hula, where they put little appendages on it. And then you've got ones where they've got like different bugs. If I can get some of these out of here. You've got them like this, where you've got a little bug. It looks like it's just a little beaver type bait. You've got, you know, you've got your craw. They've got, you know, different craw ones that look like a little craw standing up on the bottom from Z-Man. And pretty much nowadays everybody has them, and they're almost mimic what Z-Man has done. Because then you've got Strike King, and Strike King has one, and they call it their Rage Bug. There it is. That's Strike King's little Ned. But again, it's not elastic. You can see pulling it. That's not really going anywhere. It's not as strong. It's not as last. Now, the difference is, I will say, these will tear up and they rip up and then they're done. The problem that I get sometimes with the Z-Man stuff, if I can get one that I've used here, is it'll start to get bites, and then it'll get all mangled. There you go. There's a large TOD, and they'll get bites, and then they'll get all twisted on the hook, and then it'll get all mangled, and then you'll end up having to reposition, and it'll get all twisted, and then the part where it's just crap. Even though the bait is still good and it's not ripped up, it's like it won't rip up, but they'll still get deformed and everything, and they'll end up sagging like that. Because the thing with a Ned, the first tip I'm gonna give you, when you're Ned fishing, if you have it bent. Now, I've tried this. Now, being on the river, I've had ones where me and my brother-in-law get it, and you get it like that, where they get so bit up that they're kind of all twisted and curved on there. You will notice your strikes will go down. You will get less fish on that than you will get if it is completely straight. So the more you can get it where it is standing, let's find some place to put that sucker, where it is standing straight up on the hook, you will get more bites. The more, because I've got it repositioned and wasn't getting strikes, and then repositioned so it's straight up and down, and I threw it in a hole, and then boom, end up getting a strike. Some reason when they're kind of twisted and bent over and they're not straight up and down, the fish don't do it. And I assume this thing, if you think of a minnow that's feeding off the bottom, they're going to be positioned like this. They're mostly all going to be vertical in the water. If it came through and it's something like that, the fish are going to look at it and be like, yeah, there's something wrong with him, and they're not going to bite it. So, yeah, that's a pretty good deal. And one thing too, the difference between, you've got the Elastec and the your regular plastic material that you have here that you see on like your Senkos and Strike Kings, don't mix them. This is like crossing the beams and Ghostbusters. You mix these up, these things will break down. The materials will react chemically, and they will melt. They will melt everything. I've had one of my spots where I have the Z-Man stuff in a pouch, and I had a Senko, Gary Yamaha Senko, just get in and just touched it, just melted into everything, and it just continues. It'll just lay waste, man, and you'll lose a lot of money in baits, because these aren't cheap. But if I had to pick between the two, which ones are going to be the best, it's everybody knows it's these work. Now you have your Strike King ones, they're Echo Neds and everything, and these work. And I usually use these if I'm going for I want like a bigger profile, and I'm really trying to get down in there just to kind of switch it up. Ooh, I almost threw that in the wrong box. That would not be good. I'll go with those. And I even ones got you've got your Robo Worm has some. They're kind of, and then you've got the Rage by Strike King, right? So different profiles. You've got this one here is like a Ned Bomb by Robo Worm, or not. I'm sorry, it's not a Ned Bomb. It's just a straight tail. But anyways, yeah, you've got the Ned Bomb. I forgot who this is by. This is Missile Baits. Sorry, there you go, Missile Baits. Missile Baits has a Ned Bomb. Those work pretty good. Robo Worm has their Ned Worm, which are really good, really salted. They're not elastic material. They're not really stretchy, but really good, because I really love Robo Worm when it comes to my drop shots. So I'm really anxious to, put these out there. I've tried them, got some bites around the local lakes, but I think this summer when I get out on the river and start smallmouthing in that clear water, I think those are going to do some work. But, so that being said, your different types, you're different. I will tell you this too. Another tip I'll give you, and that was given to me, and this will make a big difference when it comes to your Ned fishing, is don't go for the heaviest or the lightest, if that makes sense. But what I'm saying is, go with the lightest and smallest head that you can get. Ned head until, because you've got different sizes. You got like small, got 1/10, you got, 1/8, you got the 1/4 ounce, like I just showed you from Strike King, which you have the Strike King ones. You've got this one, which is like a Z-Man. This is like a Z-Man Ned jig, which has the jig but with the Ned head on there, and that's I want to say that's a little bit 1/16 of an ounce or something. And it different ones. But what you can go to, I would recommend, is don't always go with the biggest. Now, if you're going with deeper water or heavy current and you're trying to get down to the bottom, yes. But I kind of play, and it does make a difference. A friend of mine told me that, and it does make a difference. Go with the lightest one that you could get of the Ned heads and still be able to get to the bottom. And it makes a real difference on the action on that bait and how it goes down, because you don't want it just to go boop to a rock. You want it to still do its thing, almost like a wacky rig or a Texas rig. You want it to kind of be able to sink down there, but still have enough weight to get past the current and get into the bottom. And you do that, and you will notice that your strikes will go way, way up. Because I used to always throw like the heaviest. I think that head right there is a little loose, but I used to always just throw the heaviest one. It was like, man, these Ned rigs are trash. They're just not doing it. And then a friend of mine was like, who does it a lot, was like, man, you're using too heavy a weight. He's like, you use those heavy ones, you're trying to get down to like really deep water, like 10 feet, 12 feet, whatever. And so, but if you're going through those smaller currents when you're in a couple feet of water and everything, you want that small one because you want it to kind of float, do its thing. And he's like, you'll notice you'll get a lot more bites. And I did. It went way up. So that's a tip for you. But here we go. My end all, best all around Ned rig bait is a Nico Helgamite. Helgamite is it's a bug that when I talk to a lot of your smallmouth fishing, they call it smallmouth candy. And these things, so naturally they get tore up by smallmouth, and they get down there when they're in their larvae stage, and they'll sit on the bottom, and they look just like this. That's a Helgamite. You look it up and Google it. That's what a Helgamite looks like. And eventually they'll sprout wings and fly off. But the smallmouth tear these up. A lot of bass, a lot of fish in general tear these up. And so you get this one, Nico. The Nico is an elastic material also, so it'll float and stand up. And I feel it is stronger than the elastic that you get from Z-Man. For instance, you see this one here? This head was black. You see that? Can you see it? Let me focus in. That head was black. I took this out last time. Now it's a little bent, but I keep straightening it up. You can see in the bottom there how I've kind of straightened and straightened and straightened. I used this for four days straight, smallmouth. I probably caught a total of 20-something fish on it, and he is still going and still ready to go. I've thrown the Z-Man out there in that TRD, and usually when I'm out there, I'm using either that green pumpkin or I'm using this one here, which I think is called California Crawl. If I can get it, look, it's got a red and gold flake in there. That one does awesome, but it seems like after about 4 or 5 fish, it's toast. This thing keeps going, keeps catching them, and keeps on ticking. I had one I used, no bullshit, I used for 2 years straight, and it was still going. I just kept switching out the head when the head got it, kept using the same lure until I got going in some heavy current and caught some brush on the side, and then it went, just tears went down. Now they are kind of hard to find. You can get them on different sites. I know you can even get them on Amazon, and they'll run you, I know when I did, I think it was like $7-8 a pack of 4. But again, if you can use it, I've been using this one for a very long time, and he is still going. These are my last 2. I'm going to have to get it. This is the natural color. They come in different colors. This is a natural. It's more of kind of a black on the tail, kind of lightens up towards the front. And these are amazing. If you think I'm lying, try it out. Nico. I think it's like Neko. And it's the Helgamite. The smallmouth, I've caught largemouth and smallmouth on it, and they will annihilate these. Every time I go through it, and it's funny because I have my brother-in-law and I'll buy him packs. I will literally go and buy 4 packs of the Z-Man TRD, get him heads, rig them all up, and say, here you go. I'll give him like 10 or 12 of them, and then he'll be throwing those and catching them, and I'll just be smacking big ones, and I'm pretty much catching more than him. And he's always like, what are you using? And I'm like, it's a Helgamite. He's like, let me get one. I was like, nope, you didn't put it you didn't put in on this. So yeah, man, these are my secret one that a guy friend told me. And again, they call these smallmouth candy, and Nico Helgamite, man. So there it is. I've passed the tip on to you, and if you can find them and get them, man, these are amazing. And a lot of people know Nico makes other baits, but for me, when I'm going smallmouth and even largemouth, I'm going Ned Rig and I really want to just tear them up, I'll pull these suckers out and just pretty much don't tell them. I keep them in the back of my Z-Man with all my other Elastec stuff, and I keep it in the very back in a small little deal. And people are like, oh, what are those? I'm like, that's nothing. But there it is, man. I'm going to pass it on. Give them a shot. Let me know what you think in the comments. But, man, these, if you know, you know. These are amazing. All right, man. Thanks for watching. Until next time.